This is Kenny Tan. Welcome to Real Estate License in 14 Weeks. This is episode 23 of Starting from Zero. Now we start on chapter 7. It's talking about real estate law. If you like my video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell so you receive first notification of future releases of my videos, and please share my video with your friend. When is a real estate license required to perform services? Well, there are several different areas where a license is required. If it is done with the expectation that you want to be paid a compensation. So the different areas are real estate sales, leases, rentals, real property sales contract, and syndicate, and of course mortgages. So let's talk about real estate sales. If you call the person to solicit the person's business with the expectation that you will earn a commission when you get a listing for that property, generally speaking, you're required to have a license. If you call a landlord trying to get a lease listing with the expectation that you'll be able to sign a listing agreement to put the property on the market to look for a tenant, you will need a real estate license. If you call a borrower to solicit business to get a loan for the borrower, or if you call a lender to solicit business to service the lender with the expectation you'll be paid, you need a license. Now, if you form a syndicate, let me explain to you what a syndicate is. A syndicate is a private group of investors who pool their money to make an investment. So each individual might come up with a certain sum of money, and it consists of several people, and we call that a syndicate. Now, if you form a syndicate with the expectation you'll be paid a compensation by helping the individual investors in the syndicate, you will need a license. So the key word is you expect to be paid with reasonable expectation of compensation. So let me just recap the different areas. Buying and selling of real estate, leasing a real estate syndicate, real property sales contract, solicit business for a mortgage. So generally speaking, about 5 to 6 areas. If you are in the business of buying and selling promissory notes, there are some individuals who use their own money to buy notes or sell notes. If you do more than 8 transactions in a year, you're required to have a broker license, even if it's your own business of buying and selling promissory notes. Earlier, we talked about what are the type of activities for which a broker license is required. Well, what are the type of activities for which a salesperson license is required? Actually, the type of activities will be the same whether you are applying for a salesperson license or broker license. A salesperson, the difference between a salesperson and a broker is that a broker can act independently. A salesperson must act under the supervision of a broker. There are certain exceptions to the requirement for a license. For example, if you are helping a friend to collect rent, let's say, for example, you have a friend who is in overseas who owns a rental property in the United States, and that friend asks you to do him a favor, so to collect rent for him. Normally, collecting rent, if you expect to be paid a fee or a commission, that requires a license. But because if you're doing it for a friend with no expectation of getting paid, you're not required to have a license. If you're selling or buying your own property representing yourself, you're not required to have a license. Now, earlier I mentioned about a person collecting rent for his friend. Now, what if you live in overseas and you're asking somebody local to help you to be a representative, a power of attorney? You know what a power of attorney is? Basically, it's a piece of paper that authorizes another person to act on your behalf. Now, if the person who has the power of attorney, who we also call, who whose technical name is attorney in fact. If you are an attorney in fact under a power of attorney, for example, if you're a friend of someone who's living in overseas and he wants to buy a home, but he doesn't want to hire an agent, he wants to do his own deal, you will be representing this person to go look at home, to do different things for him as a buyer. Now, if you're not getting paid, you're just somebody who is empowered under the power of attorney to buy a home, you're not required to have a license. The third type of person who's not required to have a license, even though they're engaging in some of the activities that we talked earlier, is a lawyer, an attorney at law. Attorney at law, agents are often involved in the preparation of a real estate purchase contract. Sometimes on a more difficult or more complex commercial real estate, a buyer or seller might hire a real estate attorney to prepare the purchase contract. So an attorney who prepares the purchase contract is not required to have a real estate license because he's just doing his job as an attorney. Those were the important exceptions. There are several other exceptions, but I won't discuss them because they are not tested in the exam. The two main areas will be attorney at law, and attorney in fact. Okay, these are the areas where you're going to get tested in the exam. Next, we're going to talk about the Department of Real Estate. The head of the Department of Real Estate is known as the Real Estate Commissioner. The responsibilities of a real estate commissioner would include investigate complaints against licensees, screening and qualifying applicant, and regulate the sale of subdivision. So if you get investigated, if somebody files a complaint against you at the Department of Real Estate, it is the commissioner who's going to be investigating the complaint. Now, if a developer wants to develop a project that requires the DRE's approval, the commissioner would have to approve the subdivision. Generally speaking, subdivision that is 5 or more units would require the approval of the commissioner. If you violate real estate law, what does real estate law mean? Real estate law, in the context of a Department of Real Estate, simply means licensing law. So for exam purposes, real estate law equals licensing law. So if somebody files a complaint against you, and if it's an allegation of fraud, for example, that is a violation of the licensing law or real estate law. Now, whenever that happens, the commissioner will hold formal hearings. Before he hosts a formal hearing, he will serve accusation and statement of issues against the licensee against whom the complaint was filed. An accusation basically is a type of document that explains what the complainant is complaining about, what type of behaviors that is a violation of the real estate law. And then the statement of issues will be more detail of all the issues that will be heard at the hearing. Also, the commissioner will make rules and regulations that will become part of the Administrative Procedures Act or the code, which is also has the same force and effect of the law. What that means is, even though these are rules and regulations made by the commissioner, is as if it is a type of law. And the commissioner is also responsible for enforcing provisions of real estate law. As I stated earlier, real estate law equals licensing law. So if there's a violation of the licensing law by a licensee, the commissioner is the one who's going to enforce it. In California, getting advance fees on a loan modification is not legal. So if a borrower comes to a company to get loan modification, that company cannot collect advance fee. What does advance fee mean? Say, for example, a borrower is in difficulty with the lender and they can no longer make payments on the loan. And he saw an advertisement on the internet. So he contacted this company, and this company says, well, we need you to first pay us $5,000 before we perform any services. Now, an advance fee are payments that are made before service is completed. So an advance fee is illegal under the law of the state of California. Therefore, a person who violates the advance fee law in the loan modification is subject to prosecution by the commissioner. This is the end of episode 23. See you next time.